Hello, book besties. It is time for my March reading wrap up. I know I missed last week's wrap up. My house has been a disaster. We had our shower redone, and if I'm being honest, it's still a little messed up. So, trying to get over that. I read 14 books in the month of March. I actually am cheating a little, and I'm recording this before I finish the last one, but I know myself, and I know between today and tomorrow, I'm going to finish that book. So, I have my stack of all the physical ones. Let's go through it, starting with what I've read most recently, since I haven't had a chance to talk to you about it yet. And I have a kitty by me who is wanting to be involved. So, yay. I was going to use this to hold my microphone, but I am actually hating this, so we're going to put it on my shirt. Ugh, don't fall. Okay. Here's the physical stack of books for what I read in March, starting with most recently. I just finished listening to A Fire in the Sky by Sophie Jordan. This is the Fairy Loot edition. And if I were to describe this book, it's kind of like if Game of Thrones met How to Train Your Dragon. Like, it feels very introduction to fantasy and romantasy. It's quite short, I feel like, for a fantasy romance book. And so it really doesn't have too much in it. The one narrator, though, sounds so much like Jon Snow, and they're always talking about like going north. And I was like, this is Game of Thrones. But basically, there's a girl, and she's the whipping girl for the princesses, meaning like anytime the princesses are supposed to get punished, she has to take it. And so they trick this lord from the north into marrying her because he's like, I want to marry one of the princesses. So they trick him into marrying her, and she has to go north with him. And as may be implied by the cover, there are dragons in this book. I'm not going to tell you how or why they get involved, but I would give this like 3.5 stars. I think the most interesting part was literally like the end, which made me want to read more. But the first, I don't know, half of the book, I'm trying to think when part one ended. Um, but the first big chunk of the book felt like it was kind of telling me stuff that should have been in a much shorter, I can't find it, in a much shorter period of time. There's a lot of time spent with her like getting ready to be married and then like the marriage. But I was like, I want to know more about this trip north and like the drama. So this is the pretty edition though. It does have some book art. She's a ginger. Kind of reminds me of Poppy from the Jennifer Armentrout books. And then he is just kind of a man. There's nothing really special about him. His name is Fell, and the other guy's name is Stig. There's a third point of view, and he's like the captain of the guard who's jealous that that guy gets his girl. So that was the most recent book that I read, and then the book that I'm in the middle of reading is Space for More by Emily Antoinette, and this is an FFM alien romance, as you can maybe tell from the cover. And basically, the human woman is a doctor and she thinks she's going to this medical conference. The guy, he is also a doctor going to this medical conference. And then the one in the middle is actually his mate, but like she kind of rejected him and ran away. And basically, they are roped in to trying to figure out if he's doing something nefarious with like these codes. It's really just like a subplot that there's anything else going on other than they all flirting and wanting to have kinky time. My favorite thing is I got this book because my husband, we were talking about Mass Effect, and he wanted me to play it, and I was like, I don't know. But then I was reading alien sexy books, and he was like, well, if you play Mass Effect, I'll buy you this book. And so I still have not played Mass Effect, but I'm reading it. But it has art overlays that I cannot show you because they are inappropriate. So far, I think I'm going to give this a 4 star. There isn't like a whole lot of plot, but it's definitely there, and it's just a good time. Sometimes you just need a good time. Then I've kind of been in my Mafia era a little bit again. I listened to 2 audiobooks by S.J. Tilley. I listened to Nero and King. King, I haven't talked to you about yet. So King is a character that you meet in Nero. Nero is about this guy who kind of like runs into this girl's house and ends up kind of being a stalker a little bit. And then she falls in love with him, of course. That one I gave like a 3.5. There was some weird stuff surrounding whether or not she was a virgin that I was like, I don't really like this. But then King is his friend who's just like this rich guy. And he goes to some other friend's house one day, and the female main character also goes there, and they run into each other. And she is with this guy that she's dating, who they find out is married to King's sister. And so King is pissed, number one, that he's cheating on his sister, and then number two, like, he just doesn't like this guy, I guess. So him. And because our main character, Scarlett, I don't even remember her name. I have a really hard time remembering these FMC's names. Because she kind of sees it happen. He's like, well, I don't want to hurt her, but I can't have her telling anyone. So I'm going to marry her so that she has to not tell anyone. So they get married. So lots of forced proximity, lots of mafia stuff going on. It was good. I think that one I would give a 3. I didn't necessarily love it or hate it. It was fine. Then I did it. I read Sunrise on the Reaping. I listened to it. I highly recommend the audiobook. The narrator did such a good job just kind of giving that life to like a young Hamish that I would not have been able to picture. Otherwise, it would have just been Woody Harrelson in my head the whole time. And I had, well, I would say I didn't have a good time. I had an emotional time. I cried so much at the end. It is so good and very timely, unfortunately. I know Suzanne Collins often says like she doesn't write anything unless she like feels like she needs to, and clearly the world is crazy and she felt like she needs to. I had a friend ask me, should they read this book first and then the trilogy because I haven't read it? And I said, no. I definitely think you should read the original Hunger Games trilogy and then I would say read Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, which is the one about President Snow, and then read this in publication order, because this really felt like the stamp at the end. Like, I don't know if she has more coming, but this feels like the end. It feels like we finally understand all of the connecting parts between Snow and Katniss, and then Haymitch is kind of the connecting factor, and it all comes back to the Covey, which is super interesting, and it just broke my heart. It was so good. A lot of people have said like this is our punishment for all of the thirst edits of young Snow. Just anytime Suzanne Collins saw one of those, she said add another kid dying, because oh my heart, it was so good. I read an arc of a book called the God's Time Forgot, and this was kind of presented as Outlander-ish meets I don't even know what. So it's in like late 1800s New York City, and this woman kind of wakes up and doesn't know who she is. Well, she doesn't wake up. She crawls out of a hole in the ground. She comes out of this hole in the ground, and these people are looking for her because they think that she is the daughter of this like well-to-do family. She doesn't really remember who she is, but she definitely is like, I don't think I'm that daughter. Kind of strange because she wants to figure out who she really is, but she has to play along with the very strict mother of who this girl is supposed to be. So her name's Rua, but they think that she's Emma. And so she has to pretend to be Emma. And it's kind of like the time period of debutante balls, and like they're trying to find someone for her to marry. And the other point of view is this guy named Finn, who is an Irish lord, which during this time period, the Irish were like not treated very well, right? But because he's a lord, he kind of has a step up. So he still kind of gets, a little bit of that mistreatment, but also he has money. And he's in business with this girl Emma's dad and then another guy. So they're going to like open a hotel or something in New York. And he is kind of pushed to court and then like want to marry the other guy's daughter, who's a giant jerk. And they're kind of making fun of Rua slash Emma because she's weird and she got kicked out of boarding school for something else. Because it sounds like Emma was kind of into some weird stuff, like witchcraft, basically. And I'll just tell you that there's a plot and it's good. I gave it, what did I give it? A 3.5 stars. But I think it just was kind of lacking that thing that made me want to really care too much. Like there was the romance, but it's not like a spicy book. And as the title may hint, The Gods Time Forgot, one or both, I won't tell you, of these people are like actually like long lost gods who don't know who they are. So it was fine. Then, I don't know why I always say that. I listened to and read along with Emily Wilde's Compendium of Lost Tales, and this is absolutely 5 stars. I love this series. This book in particular, I think, was really good. I really liked book 1. Book 2 was like fine, but book 3 I really enjoyed. And this story follows Emily Wilde, who is a dryadologist. Basically, she's a scientist who studies fairies. And in the first book, her colleague Wendell, she finds out, is a fairy. He's a king. And by the time we get to book 3, they are in a relationship. She is married to him. Well, they're in a relationship. She's going to be married to him. And so that means that she's going to be his queen. And she likes to write these books. So the first one was the Encyclopedia of Fairies. The second one was Map of the Other Worlds. And this is the Compendium of Lost Tales. So a lot of the problem solving in this book has to do with them looking back at these previous tales about like fairy tales literally, and using that to solve the problem. It's so good. They just feel like a Hosier song. Like they're just magical and cozy, but also romantic, and I thoroughly enjoy them. And I'm kind of sad it's over, but it's okay. As we previously discussed, I did read Oathbound this month, and I listened to the audiobook. Again, highly recommend the audiobook of this because we get the narrators for all of the different POV characters, because Tracy decided to do different POV characters in this book, whereas before it was only Bree. It is amazing. It's so good. I feel like there's nothing I can say to make you want to read it other than just like it's so good. And you need to read Legendborn, and once you read Legendborn, you're going to get it. And then you're going to read Bloodmarked, and you'll be like, oh my god, I need more. And you're going to read Oathbound, and you're going to get to the end, and you're going to be like, damn, Tracy, you are a genius. It's so good. It's so long, but it was worth it. Definite 5-star read. I took a brief moment to be a cowgirl, and I read Flawless by Elsie Silver, Lost and Lassoed by Lila Sage. We talked about Lost and Lassoed. He is the oldest. They're very similar. Well, no, they're not. The worlds are similar. So in this book, he is the oldest son, and she is his youngest sister's best friend, and she helps him out by kind of nannying his kid. And of course, even though they've butted heads a bunch, and apparently they had like a hookup kiss one time forever ago, they butt heads and they finally find out, oh, we actually do care about each other. Super sweet. I love it. I gave this 5 stars because I love Gus. I love him so much. Flawless by Elsie Silver. He is a bull rider, and his name's Rhett, which was weird because my neighbor, when I was a child, his name was Rhett. But he's a bull rider, and her dad is like his manager, basically, and the bull rider guy, Rhett, gets in a little bit of trouble. So the dad is like, hey, your assignment is to hang out with Rhett and make sure he doesn't get in trouble. And she, in the past, has had some medical problems, so she's kind of one of those people who's like gonna live life to the fullest. She has a statement that she says like, if this was your last day on earth, would you be happy? Which is super depressing, but whatever. He's getting older, so his bull riding is like, this is probably his last season, because if he gets hurt, he's done for. And there's a little bit of drama because they start to kind of like flirt a bit, but she has this ex who is really messing with her head and like keeps talking to her more and more, even though they have broken up. And you find out that it's even messier than you think. So I gave that one 4 stars. It was good. I am going to continue reading that series. There is only one more book in this book series. There's Wild and Wrangled, I think is what it is. So there was my cowboy moment. I've read my arc of Aaron Essence. This book comes out April 1st. This is a fantasy, a dark fantasy, why choose romance, where we have Daya, who is a bruja, a witch, and she is trying to, in this book, save one of her love interests, Zuri, while also figuring out all of this stuff about her world, which is a lot. So I really enjoyed that. I gave that 4 stars. I listened to and read an arc of a book called Shoot Your Shot, which is a hockey romance. This was fine. I gave it 4 stars. It's very like Black Cat, golden retriever kind of thing. And she's an artist and he's on the hockey team and she paints murals. And then they kind of do a fake dating thing. So it was good. I read The Neighbor Favor, which is the first book in this series. I had already read the first one, which is the partner plot. I didn't love this one as much. They're both writers and it gets a little messy, and I don't like when there's like miscommunication where basically they've known each other virtually. They've been messaging each other back and forth, but she doesn't know it's him and he doesn't tell her. And I don't like when things get messy. So I gave that 3 stars. And last but not least, Fable for the End of the World by Ava Reed. Love this copy. Another like dystopian book that feels just like Sunrise on the Reaping, very timely. It kind of touches on like consumerism and like going into debt and like the companies being in charge of it. It does have kind of a Hunger Gamesy inspiration. The author said so herself, but rather than like a big reaping where there's lots of people going into the Hunger Games, in this one, basically, whenever someone goes like too far into debt with this company, they go and are like chased and by they call them angels, or they can kind of put someone forth. So the main character girl, her mother does that to her, and so it's also a little sapphic, which we love. The ending left me just, I didn't really know what to think because I was like, I need more, and there wasn't more. So again, I just love this copy of this book, and it made me love Ava Reed again because we had a moment where I didn't, because I didn't like Lady Macbeth. So that is everything I read in March. If you're wondering how I did on my readathon, I did read 5,000 pages or more. I think I'm at 5,500. So I went a little overboard and I will be reaching my goal. I think I'm going to donate the last bit, but if anybody wants to check out the link below, it will be open until April 14th. So you can still give money to Open Books, where it goes towards children's literacy programs and making sure kids have books. So that was March. I'm going to get back to the swing of recording every week, and you'll be able to see everything that I read. Thanks for watching. I never know how to end.